Welcome to Mr. UFC Vegas Fight Club TV. I am Kyle, your host. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the bet review show for UFC 230, Daniel Cormier versus Derek Lewis. We're going to get into the best bet play that we had, of course, our free play as well, and the fact that I was at this event, had a fantastic time, awesome event, and whether the events are really good, average, or even subpar, it's awesome being at a live event. So for those of you who have not gone to UFC events, trust me, it is worth it. I know many of you have. I've talked to a bunch of you that go to more than one per year, go to a few every year. I try to go to a few every year, so every event is always fantastic to go to, and I highly suggest it. Another great event at Madison Square Garden. It wasn't as good as UFC 217, the one that I was at, but you know what? It's an event, and I always have a great time. So, before we get into the best bet play, all of our plays, and as well as our overall feeling on this card, do not forget to subscribe, like, head kick the bell icon, get involved with Fight Club TV. It's a growing UFC and gambling channel all in one spot. So, as I said, I was at this event. Great time, and the first thing that we're going to really go over, I guess, is the Daniel Cormier versus Derek Lewis fight. Now, this was not one that needed to be predicted. This is not one that we needed to really discuss on the betting side of things, but I thought it was a really great fight, and I give a lot of credit, and this is something that I feel a lot of people aren't really talking about. I give a lot of credit to Daniel Cormier. I think Cormier taking this fight on short notice, of course even further, Derek Lewis took this on short notice, but both of these guys really went in there and almost saved this event. And it needed a title fight. Daniel Cormier, a two-division champion, putting it on the line. I mean, as much as people really knock Derek Lewis, and maybe Derek Lewis isn't the big name and the guy that can go in there and really challenge Daniel Cormier, but it's still a fight, and it's still two guys throwing fists, and at the end of the day, you got a guy that's much larger than Daniel Cormier, and it was an interesting fight. I mean, Lewis cuts down to make the heavyweight limit, so really interesting how that all panned out, but obviously Daniel Cormier goes out there, he gets the job done. This is my second time seeing Daniel Cormier fight, which is great as well. I mean, possibly, and you guys let me know what you think, I mean, possibly they call him the GOAT. I mean, at this point, is he the GOAT? I mean, how do you not really think he's one of the greatest of all time? And if not the greatest, and what he wanted to do, Cormier wanted to actually defend both belts. So he wanted to be the first to just not only, yes, McGregor did it, defended won both belts, but never defended any. Cormier wants to win two titles and simultaneously, and then defend both. So he defended the heavyweight title. He wants to try to defend and go out there and defend the light heavyweight title. So he's going out there and he's doing his thing. I did see him at UFC 200 against Anderson Silva, which was supposed to be John Jones. A little bit disappointed when that was happening. I actually got that news when I was on the plane heading to Vegas, so it kind of was a little bit of mixed feelings as I was landing in Vegas. But again, Daniel Cormier defends his heavyweight title. So now what we will do, we will get into, actually before we do, the other fight I want to talk about was the Israel Adesanya versus Derek Brunson fight real quickly. And this was a fight here, to me, that when I was looking at this fight, odds, were, you had Adesanya as the favorite going in there, a sizable favorite, but Brunson brings that wrestling. And he brings that pressure that he's going to go look, he's got a little bit of power to him, and was it going to really give Adesanya an issue going into this fight? And for me, taking a look at these two guys, you know what, Brunson, and they talk about, Adesanya does not have that great wrestling, once he gets on the ground, he can't get up, and that's been a big thing. That was something that it was stuck in my mind. I said, you know what, this is going to be a very, very big test for Adesanya, and I think it's going to be really a tough fight for him. He went in there, and not only did he really just push off any takedown attempts that Brunson really had. I mean, Brunson was in there really trying to get him to the ground. So much great leverage that Adesanya had and just kept defending those, but he made it look easy. And I have not been someone that's been a really big believer in Israel Adesanya. I know that obviously he's talented and he's raw and, there's a lot of great things about him. But I thought that, if you start to creep up, not like Brunson is this, although he's top 6 before this fight, top 6, top 5 ranked in the division. So it's not like he's some bum, but this was going to be a big test for him, and he went in there and he obliterated Derek Brunson, and I just was really surprised the way that he did it. Obviously, he is a surging star within the UFC. Not only does he talk the talk, he walks it, and he's got a lot of swag to him that I think is going to really push his brand a little bit further and a little bit quicker. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Israel Adesanya going into his next fight. There are some awesome fights that they can really set him up with, and I would really be interested to see how they place that. Do they set him up with Weidman, because Weidman's coming off a loss? Do they set him up with Jacare to really push that, which would be a very, very interesting fight with how much of obviously Jacare would just look to smother him? Would it be easy? Would it be hard for him? I think that's another great fight, but again, Israel Adesanya I thought was a terrific, terrific showing. One of the better knockouts of the night. But what we will do now is we will get into our best bet play. Our best bet play was on Chris Weidman to defeat Jacare. And now this fight to me here, it was another tough fight to see a loser on. And and the reason why is because, my big thing here in this fight was it was going to be more of a standing fight. I thought it would be more of a standing, but I did not think that there was going to be no ground opportunities here. I mean, nobody went to the ground here. And in my breaking this down was if they stood, Weidman's going to have the advantage standing. He's going to be able to not pick him apart. I mean, because Weidman is not someone who can, but he was really in that first round landing big shots. He actually staggered Jacare early in that fight. Had a lot of pressure on him. Was really doing well, moving around the cage well. Was able to land a lot of shots, throwing nice combinations. Jacare was throwing a lot of body shots, entering when he was throwing his combinations, starting with the body shot and trying to mix it up a little bit and try to confuse Weidman instead of looking to block up top. He was always throwing the body shots low, which was really great strategy by Jacare. And when they were in there, first round was an easy Weidman round, and it was easy Weidman round. And for me, looking at this fight and really breaking it down, a lot of it had to also do with I didn't see any kind of gas tank from Jacare after round 2. And there's been fights that he's won early, and when he went in there early, he looked great. He went in there and he got some knockouts early and got some finishes early. But when it started to get into those rounds, rounds 2 and rounds 3, I just didn't think he looked like he had a lot of energy. And I just thought that the big sign to me was if he gets out of round 1, if Weidman and Jacare go into round 2, I think there's a really great chance that Weidman can keep the pressure going and win a decision. And that was really the path to victory here. I didn't think it was going to be some choke out that was going to happen, although obviously it's possible. And if they stood, I really thought the boxing of Weidman would really press a lot up against Jacare. And in that second round, although a close round, and again, I watched some of the post-fight interviews and conversations. Pretty much all the analysts believed Weidman was up 2-0 going into that third. Now, I fully believe that as well. I said at worst it's a 1-1, but I really feel like it's a 2-0 right now, Weidman. And I think that if he could just get out of this third round, it's a best bet win. It's an easy win. Not an easy win, but it's a win. And going into that third round, I was even more confident heading into that third round, the fact that, I think that Jacare is going to be real tired. I think that this is going to be a slow third round, maybe some wild shots being shot around, but a slow third round, and we're going to coast right into a 2-1 decision victory for Weidman. And you know what, Jacare he was like a bully in that third round. He stayed in front of Weidman the entire round. Pretty much the entire fight. But in that third round, he did not give up. I mean, it was something where I thought Jacare would completely have his hands down, and he would not have much. He'd be throwing a lot of times. You saw when I was watching some of the past footage, you saw Jacare throwing very lazy, slow punches later in fights. He just didn't have it. And this fight here, he just kept pressing. And Weidman, was trying to find, instead of really even exchanging, he was trying to just get out of those tight situations. And as he continued to get out of them, Jacare was just throwing. He was throwing and he was landing. And then Weidman would try to come back into the exchange, and already Jacare had so much pressure on him. And I was really, really impressed by the way he took a lot of damage, but didn't even tire out, and Jacare continued to push forward. He landed a bomb that dropped him, and I give Jacare also a lot of credit where he dropped them and looked and just was like, you want me to keep punching this guy in the ground? So he didn't even, I give him credit there that he didn't want to, totally, smash out a guy that's in front of his home crowd. So I give him a little credit there, but it was a fight where it was very close to Derek Lewis's last fight, where Derek Lewis was losing. Derek Lewis was absolutely losing that fight. Came out and threw a knockout blow late in the third round. Game over. So a fight is 3 rounds. You do not get wins for winning 2 rounds and then getting knocked out in the third. So Weidman does not get the victory. Jacare does, and that now puts us at best bet for the year, 25-12 plus 20.23 units for the year. We are a hair under 70% for the year, and for me, you know what, my goal this year was to, be at that, that plus 30 unit range and around plus, 75% winning percentage. And remember, all of my best bet plays are on fighters below -190. So try and look for those value plays. We're not laying a lot, but we're looking for opportunities where somebody has more paths to victory than the other one and can get those wins. And this one here, it was a tough loss to swallow. Seeing it live still is fantastic. I mean, again, it's not the outcome I wanted to see, but man, it was a fantastic fight. And we move on to the next one. The next card will be this Saturday. And again, we have back to back. I mean, basically till Christmas, we've got multiple UFC events. And that's the way I always talk about this. And a lot of you guys were very interactive in the comment section. Again, I answer all comments down below, all the comments. And we're talking to people, when, 4 in a row we had best bets, and then we lose 2. Not the greatest, doesn't feel good, but it's all about money management. And that's the way you talk about it. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows in sports betting. And it's a mathematical certainty that everybody will lose at a point in sports betting and any sports betting. It's really handicapping the right ones, and then it's also using your capping skills over a long extended period of time. And that's where you're going to see the profits. Now, this one was not the one we wanted to see. This was not the outcome we wanted to see. But again, we need to continually move forward. And there's always an event. Whether you win and you catch a good win, it feels great. But even the one we had where there was a lot of conversation, you take the Khabib versus Conor fight. I mean, there were people that were, completely, totally, 100% saying Conor McGregor is going to knock him out in the first round. And he loses. But whether he won or lost, however it may happen, and Khabib I felt was going to win, and you win, and you have the conversation, but you move on. Now, we got that win, you move on to the next one, because there's always another fight and something else to focus on. And again, losing is part of sports betting. We need to make sure that we are in the plus side all the time. And again, we are a hair under 70% winner for the year, and we are at plus 20.23 units for the year. So again, next one is always the most important one, and we got to stay focused. So the other bet that we had was the free bet play. The free bet play was on David Branch to defeat Jared Cannonier. This is another one here. I mean, I kind of leaned a little bit more towards the favorite here, and I thought there was no chance that that Jared Cannonier was going to be able to really outwork David Branch. And that was going to be my big thing here. And you go back and you look at the footage with Cannonier, and again, it's a different weight class, so obviously things have changed for Cannonier. He looked great. But you take a look at it, and Cannonier is just very inactive. He's not an active fighter. He doesn't really, he's a 1 or 2 combo kind of guy, and he lays back. And he lets the other fighter dictate a lot of the cage movement there, a lot of just the overall pace of the fight. So for this fight here, Branch is trying to get him to the ground, could not get him to the ground, and then he looked his age. I mean, this was a fight, the first time I saw that David Branch absolutely looked his age, and where I was looking more towards, in the other fight in our best bet play was Jacare versus Chris Weidman. You've got, Jacare is 38, same age as David Branch, and that was where, again, I'm looking at the fact that this was going to be a fight, if it goes longer, and Jacare has shown a little bit of tiredness, that his age is going to show. His age is going to show late in this fight. And that was what I thought, and it didn't happen there, but here, the opposite happened. David Branch looked his age at 38 years old against Jared Cannonier, and Cannonier's power really transitioned well to this weight division. He looked good. He actually looked, he was cut. Prior fights, obviously, he's got a little more weight to him when he was in the weight up. But this fight here, I thought he looked great. Not a world-beating performance from him, but a huge knockout, a huge finish for him. I mean, this is a fight here that really could push him and push his brand a little bit. He's now 2-3 in his last 5. It's a big win over David Branch. This really sets back David Branch a huge amount. I was a believer. Once I saw David Branch beat Thiago Santos, which I thought was a great fight, and I was actually when I was at UFC 217, knocking out Thiago Santos is not an easy thing to do with his skill set. And you look at Thiago Santos' skill set, his skill set is phenomenal. I mean, again, he's got a ton of weapons out there that he can use, and I don't really put Jared Cannonier's skill set anywhere near Thiago Santos. His leverage, his combinations from the outside, his kicks, his spinning attacks, his ground and pound. He's got so much to work with and to utilize in a cage. And he got knocked out by David Branch. And David Branch, again, on the ground, should do well, but he could not get down Cannonier. Cannonier gets the victory there. So we did not hit our best bet for the night. Got to stay focused on it. Got to look and get a win on our next play. And again, it's a fight night 138. Korean Zombie versus Yair Rodriguez. That was supposed to be Frankie Edgar. That has changed. This will be interesting to see. We'll start to take a look at this. We will have our prediction show out. It'll be coming out in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that. And if you have not yet done so, do not forget to subscribe, like, head kick the bell icon, get involved with Fight Club TV. And this is Mr. UFC Vegas, Fight Club TV.